Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the organizers Nutshell Conferences, I welcome you all to the Future of Work Summit, a day-long conference that aims to cover the various dimensions and aspects of future of work and leadership. If you run down the sequence of our today's program, we have tried to touch upon every side of what the future of work may look like, challenging and questioning our current work methods and our approach towards leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mariam Bakir and I'm a corporate communications professional. And all of what we shall be discussing in our today's proceedings today, I can relate to that. There's a lot that has already changed within the industries I closely work with, the PR firms, the public, the media industry, and the corporate side. There is a clear shift from the traditional PR practices such as press releases and press clippings to digital tools such as blogs, 2D, 3D videos and animations, and so on and so forth, which has already started to hurt the media industry and the prevailing traditional PR agencies operating in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is also important for us, just before we start talking about the advanced terminologies and topic and discussions that we have in line in our today's program, it is also important to run down an overview of the current corporate landscape that we have in Pakistan. For example, I don't know whether we have leadership present in the public sector with all due respect, but we do have in the private sector, which is further divided into multinationals, corporations, and predominantly the family-owned businesses typically known as the state-owned organizations. And they all operate and behave in their own ways and style and leadership styles. Having said that, from the state of Lahore, who's focused too much on balance sheet over and above anything else, to the state who says, I know everything already from Faisalabad, to the one who's busy in hosting dinners and parties to ambassadors and bureaucrats, the one in Islamabad. They all carry a unique attribute. And on a positive note, entrepreneurship in Pakistan is becoming younger and younger. We already have 9 Pakistanis who have made it to Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia 2018. And I'm sure there would be a lot many that we have failed to recognize and identify as yet. Ladies and gentlemen, we would now move on to our first speaker. And just before we move on to managing talent in the exponential age topic, let's run down a quick tour as to what our future may look like. So 78 to 80% of jobs will disappear in the next 20 years. Many currencies will be abandoned. By 2030, computers will have become more intelligent than humans. Software will disrupt most traditional industries in the next 5 to 10 years. While bit shaken, and I'm just wondering if Asfar may want to shift his physical platform of having conferences to more digital platform, or maybe the corporate communications profession would also may just disappear in years to come. May I eagerly request CEO, Engage Consulting and Principal Consultant RBL Group Middle East, Mr. Paul, to come forward on the stage to further enlighten us or frighten us. Thank you.
Ladies first. All right. Good morning. Good morning. You've made it very early. I admire your punctuality to be here at 9 o'clock. My name is Paul Keijzer, and I'm competing with Khandu Saab about being the longest serving Gora in Pakistan. I don't know who's winning actually. Since when are you here?
97.
90? Oh, he's winning by far. So. I'm only here since 2003, so my apologies for being second. But I'm really delighted to be here. The future of work is very, very close to my heart. And it looks like it's very close to Pakistan's heart as well, because not only a conference today in Lahore, there's next week a similar conference in Karachi as well. So we all seem to be very eager to understand what this future of work is going to entail. And as always, with futures, there's things that are going to excite us, and there are things that are going to scare us to death. And the only way for us to be ready for it is to actually embrace both parts of it. So let me just take you through what are the consequences of what I've dubbed the exponential age in terms of how you manage talent. And the idea of exponential age came from a book that I read about 2 years ago. And if you haven't read it, I would really recommend you to do that. It's called The Exponential Organization by Dr. Ismail Samil. Thank you. Yes. And that book really blew my mind. And as a result, he was he's one of the teachers at this university called Singularity University. And as a result, I tried to seek them out. And I actually signed up for an executive program that I went to last September. It was the first time I went to Palo Alto and to Silicon Valley. I must say I was underwhelmed like anything about Silicon Valley. Yeah? I don't know, how many of you been to Silicon Valley? It's absolutely nothing. Huh? It's absolutely nothing. The biggest company in the world which has built a trillion company is basically 3 high-rises, yeah? Which was Apple. Hello, Evan, how are you doing? But the one thing that impressed me is, of course, the sheer brain power that they have available there. And the whole idea around Singularity University was all around how you can positively utilize technology that is currently available to positively impact 1 billion people in the world. And from that experience, I basically took away 3 things. 3 things that is really shaping the world that we live in today. And these 3 exponential forces are to do with technology on the one hand, is to do with the environment and what we do to the environment on the other hand, and last but not least, the way that we are interconnected with each other. And I'll touch base on all 3 of them. But the key thing about acceleration is, of course, that the forces that are driving innovation are accelerating and compounding. And you see that now throughout. Yeah? Because of the advances in computing power, because of the advances in storage, and people have been able to come up with blockchain. Having blockchain will then immediately compound all kinds of other industries. So one thing leads to another. It's compounding on top of each other. And the problem with this is that we as humans are not very good in understanding exponential forces. We are very good in linear forces. Yeah? And most of you are working on your budgets for next year. And I promise you that your budgets are a linear progression over the last 2 years, correct? A little bit of change, but it's you basically linearly project what's going to happen over the next 6 to 18 months. So we're very good to think linearly. If I ask you, from here, if I take 30 steps, where do I end up? Where do I end up? 30 steps, just outside of the conference room, maybe at the stairs? No. But if I ask you, if I take 30 exponential steps, so first one is 1, then I take 2, 4, 8, 16, 34, 32, 64, 128, etc., etc. If I take 30 exponential steps, where do I end up? Anybody want to make a guess? Lower city? Mars. That's slightly further. But you end up 25 times around the world. Because 2 to the factor 30 is 1,070,000,000. Yeah? The interesting thing, of course, is if I ask you to take 24 steps, where do we end up? 12.5 times around the world. Yeah? So the whole issue is that, of course, exponential forces, when you really double every year, is really going to make a huge impact. And as a result, we cannot foresee what's going to happen 5 or 10 years down the line. It's absolutely impossible. Because if you take one example, the most famous exponential curve, certainly in the technology world, is Moore's Law. He was the co-founder of Intel, who in the 65, the year when I was born, predicted that every 18 months the processing capacity of a chip would double. Yeah? Unbelievable, that prediction has held true even till today, and they anticipate that with the introduction of quantum computers, that introduction will continue to be there. So if you look at this curve, and this curve is basically showing on the y-axis the logistical scale of the number of calculations per second that you can acquire for a $1,000 laptop. So if you've got the new iPhone 10, That's basically your $1,000 laptop. So by 2004 and 5, for a $1,000 laptop, you could basically buy the brain of a mouse. Yeah? By 2023, they anticipate that for $1,000, you can buy the computing power of a human brain. And if you continue that exponential growth, that means that by 2043, we can buy for $1,000 the computing power of the whole human race together, of 7 billion people. And I promise you that you and I, nobody can foresee what you can do with the computing power of 7 billion people in your pocket. Okay? So one thing is for clear, this is going to be dramatically, transformationally different in terms of the world that we know. And if you translate that into a very silly example, if you would take a 1973 Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle, and you would apply the same exponential improvement, this Volkswagen Beetle at the moment would be able to drive 300,000 miles per hour. He would be able to do 500,000 miles on 1 liter of petrol, and it would cost only 4 cents. Yeah? So that's the improvement that we've made into technology. But there's also a significant amount of stuff happening in the environment. Yeah? 2015 was the highest temperature ever. Only be beaten by 2016, only be beaten by 2017. And it was about 38 degrees in Karachi about a week ago. On the 15th of April, it was 38 degrees. Last week was in Lahore, it was 41 degrees. On the 26th of April, 41 degrees. Even in my 15 years, I don't think I've come across that. So we really have an impact in the environment. And the last but not least is around this exponential force in terms of connectivity. So this was the Facebook connectivity map in 2012. And you see a big bloop around China. This was it in 2015, and this is it in 2017. Yeah? At the moment, they anticipate that 3.5 billion people are connected to the internet. By 2020, they anticipate that 5 billion people are connected to the internet. Can you imagine what that does in terms of you offering digital products? Suddenly you've got a market of 5 billion people, and as a leader, you actually have access to 5 billion brains. Because whether you like it or not, there's a very big chance that the best talent in the world is not working for you. Yeah? It's probably working for somebody else, and it's about, for us, on how we can connect them to our force, and I come right to that. So the big challenge, and what you see at the moment, is that where technology is really rapidly accelerating, our ability to adapt as humans is falling behind. And as a result, what you find is all the things that we're now having about building walls and Brexiting the European Union, or all kinds of other social crises that are happening, I think for a big part is to do with the gap that you see here between the ability of humans to adapt and the advances that are being made in society. And as leaders, we've got a huge responsibility to help people have the mindset, provide them with the tools, and the governance structure in order for them to adapt quicker. Because if we don't, I think very soon we'll be looking like, has anybody seen the Wall-E movie? Anybody young kids? 10 years ago, Wall-E, where there was this little machine that was ruling the world, and basically the human race was going around in orbit in big lazy boys and slurping soda. Yeah? That's going to happen if we don't are able to adapt ourselves to that curve. So how does that work on the future of work? Well, I think there's huge implications. Yeah? Because is this the way how you work? Just read this text for me, please. How many of you in your organization, is it for 90% still the way that you operate? I promise you 10 years ago, this was 100% of everybody in this room. Yeah? By now, things will have changed. But I still think that 60, 70% of this is still true today. But I promise you, In 5 years' time, none of this will be true. Yeah? So if you're still, your HR department is still organized to make sure that this stays alive, then your HR department is redundant. Yeah? So let me help you how we go through, because organizations will move from hierarchies to networks. Why? Because we can't predict the future. And as a result, in a hierarchy, you assume that the guy on the top knows most. And I promise you, the guy on the top will probably know the least going forward. You will move from controlling to empowering. Why? Because if you don't empower, you are not able to be agile and to be able to capture the opportunities that are out there. You're going from planning to experimentation. Why? Because planning, nobody can plan for the next 3 years anymore. I promise you, something is going to happen that will go that planning in the bathwater. So the only way to do it is have small experimentation and then quick scaling up. And the last one is not about controlling, but it's about becoming as transparent as you can. And again, these are huge shifts for many of us. Yeah? So how do you manage in the exponential age? Before I come back to that, I really want to explain what I mean with talent. Because at the moment, my gut feel is that for 90% of the people sitting in this room, talent for you is the two boxes on the left-hand side. They're either the talent that is on your payroll, or in some cases you will regard the talent that's working for your advertising agency, or the talent that's working for your legal consulting firm, or the talent that's working for your recruitment firm as your talent as well. But then you're already progressive. Yeah? But talent is not about just the people that are on your balance sheet. You can borrow talent from accountants firm, from the IBMs of this world. You can borrow talent that work for you for a certain amount of time. You can access freelance talent, and I'll touch base on that a little bit later, is because a lot of people don't want to work for you. They're still very capable, and they still could make a significant contribution, but they don't want to work for you, for whatever reason. And then last but not least, there's a lot of brains out there that are very interested in specific issues and challenges, but again, have got other preoccupations that you can crowdsource. So in an open talent economy, you really have to think about talent in a significantly broader spectrum than what it is currently. And I'm going to take you through 6 different things in order to how to manage talent in the exponential age. The first one is to be a perpetual talent scout. I promise you that if I ask each one of you that is leading an organization, leading a team, leading a department, what is the single most critical element, ingredient of success of your team or your organization? I promise that you're going to say the people that work with me. Anybody disagrees? That's what I thought. So as a result, you constantly have to be on the lookout, whether it is here, whether it is through social media, whether it's through family events, whether it's when you're traveling, constantly be on the lookout as a caster, who can play a part in my company. And that doesn't mean how can he play a part in my company and work on my payroll. How can he contribute in one way or another to some of the challenges that I face? And if you're going to be confronted with a very typical millennial, then maybe your interview will go like this.
Amy, it says you are trained in technology. That's very good. Are you adept at Excel?
No.
PowerPoint?
No.
Publisher?
Not really.
Exactly in what area of technology are you proficient?
Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Vine, Twitter. You know the big ones.
I'm surprised you didn't say Facebook.
That's for old people, like my parents. That's funny.
Well, Amy, when you're working for me, you have to have those kind of research skills because I'll send you things for you to comb through and get the answers and send them to me. So for that, you've got to be really good at technology.
For stuff like that, no problem. I'll just ask Siri.
You'll just ask Siri?
You know, Siri tell me this, Siri find me that. We're all good getting you the answers.
Tell Siri I want you ready to go at 8 sharp each and every morning.
I don't understand
What don't you understand?
what you just said.
You don't understand be ready to go?
No. You said 8, right?
Yes.
8 like in the morning 8?
Yes, in the morning.
Yeah. That kind of doesn't work for me. Who gets up at 8?
I do.
I Skype with my French boyfriend in Paris until like 3 in the morning. I don't even get to Starbucks until like 10, where I order my grande chai tea latte, 3 pumps, skim milk, light water, 2% foam, extra hot but not too hot. So if it's okay, I work best in the morning at 10:45.
Wow. Amy, I don't think we're going to be a good fit.
Why are you so negative? I can sense your hostilities, and right now I am not feeling very safe. I've been here for over 5 minutes, and the only nice thing you have said to me was nice resume, which I typed all night for this meeting with you. You've given me no guidance, no validation, no encouragement, no supervision. Is there an HR director somewhere?
HR director?
Yes, I need to speak to someone. I may have to take off today as a mental health day.
Take the day off. Amy, look at me. You don't work here.
Are you firing me?
Okay, yes.
She reminds me so of my 16-year-old daughter. It's unbelievable. Yeah? So yeah, I have to take a mental health day. I don't know if any of you have taken recently a mental health day, but they are coming. They are coming. So just jokes apart. I do think it shows that would your company be ready? My question to you is, would your company be ready to get the best out of a lady like this? Because whether you like it or not, 10 years from now, there are only people, yeah, that age group that are working in the workforce. So you better start to be ready. So as a talent scout, it's always about making sure that you find the right talent. And the right talent doesn't have to work. Yeah? If I ask my 18-year-old, Tom, what do you want to do? He says, well, Pop, I don't know yet, but one thing I know for sure is that I don't want to do what you do. I don't want to go to the office at 9 o'clock and then be home at 5. That's not what I want to do. Yeah? So a lot of people, and even in Pakistan, a lot of people are actually finding the opportunity to do what they do by using platforms like this. And I call it the rise of the skillpreneur, somebody that really wants to brand his own skills, but want to do it for himself and not in favor of other companies. And sometimes they might want to work for you, but often they are not. Yeah? And Pakistani freelancers are the 4th largest income generator country in the world on a platform like Odesk and Freelancer. So there's a lot of talent out there that's not coming through your doors, but you can capture through all kinds of other platforms. The second one that I really want you to do, if anybody of you here is in HR or is in a leadership position that HR is reporting to them, I want you to throw out the HR policy book. You know, that fat one that you've got lying around, and if you're a little bit technology advanced, it's not that fat black book, but it is somewhere on the intranet that you have to dust off, that nobody goes to. Yeah? I mean that one. Why? Because majority of our policies are written to control 5% of people that want to harm the business. And you know what? You won't control those 5% anyway, and as a result, you stifle the 95% that you don't have to control. Yeah? And I really love Netflix. Netflix has got basically an HR policy book that's got one sentence, 10 words. Anybody knows? The sentence is, act and decide if this is your own company. That is the only rule that they have. For Pakistan, I would like to add a small little abbreviation of an addition to that. And is that you have to make sure that your hire reward tolerate only fully formed adults. Yeah? Because we are not very good as a society to understand that with freedom comes responsibility. And you really have to make sure that you hire people that understand that with freedom doesn't come freedom, with freedom comes responsibility. The third one that I want you to do is that I want you to start treating your team as partners. In majority of companies, and we traditionally call it the Satan, but I don't believe that's the case anymore. But still, in the majority of companies throughout the spectrum, the relationship between the employee and the employer is basically as a parent to child. Yeah? The line manager is the benevolent dictator that we all love from our past, that we hope that he will do good for us as long as I'm loyal to him. Yeah? As a result, what happens in an organization? Do you think that that person will stand up to his boss? Probably not. Do you probably that the person gets the best creativity and maximizes his thinking? Probably not. It does provide very much clarity and speed to get things done. But what if the person at the top is wrong? Yeah? And I promise you, going forward, well, in the past as well, but I think going forward, the person at the top is going more frequently wrong than it has been in the past. So you really have to make sure that you see everybody as equals. The fourth one is, how many of you did their MBAs in the 90s? How many of you did their MBAs in the 90s? Only 2, 3? Oh, that's quite a few. So when you did your MBA, you're really proud and says, I've done my job. Yeah? I've done my MBA, I can now enter the workforce and can rest on my educational laurels. Yeah? And hopefully I can get to the end of my career of 55, 60 on the basis of the studies that I've done. The one thing that happens at the moment in this exponential age is that what I call the half-life of knowledge. Yeah? So that's the time that it takes for your knowledge to be half of its value is significantly reducing. Yeah? Where it's in the 80s and 90s, it might have been 30 years. At the moment, they anticipate that the half-life of knowledge is about 5 years. So that means that everything you know, in 5 years, 50% of that is obsolete. How many of you don't have recently participated in a massive online course, a MOOC? 1, 2, 3. Okay, big problem. If only 3 of you have participated in a massive online course, I really think that you're going to be walking behind the curve on the knowledge front. Because if you look at what are the top 10 skills that got you hired through LinkedIn, I don't know how many of you recognize these, but I can't do any of them. I can't do any of them. Yeah? So if I want to be relevant, yeah, and maybe I'm not going to be relevant in the technology field, but as a consultant, my half-life of knowledge is even less than 5 years. It's going to be 3 years because I have to stay ahead of the curve. So really have to invest in not so much sending people to workshops. I deliver workshops, so that's my own bread and butter. Yeah? But stop sending people to workshops, please. Yeah? Find, ICI recently went on the LinkedIn platform for learning. For $700 an individual member, they've got access to 16,000 courses online. Yeah? So you've got all kinds of platforms available now in which you can provide employees with micro or even nana learning. Yeah? And you really have to create that culture that people start looking for skills that are relevant over the next couple of decades. The other one, in order for you to attract talent, is that certainly if you look at the young generation at the moment, they really look, but actually that's not true. I think everybody will look for a sense of meaning. Yeah? Everybody would like to make an impact. And everybody would like to be part of an organization that actually they can make a larger impact of the world. And for that, if you want to attract people in the crowd, if you want to attract people from skills all over the world, they have to be excited about what you're trying to achieve. Okay? And whether you're a cement plant, or a telecom company, or a bank, I really would urge each organization to be clear about what their massive transformational purpose is. Massive. that it is a big challenge. Transformation is that it has an impact, and purpose that explains why you do what you do. Because who doesn't work to be part of these companies? Yeah? I would love to be part of Tesla. If I can make this happen and make even a 1% contribution to sustainable transformation, that's going to be mind-blowing. And then you say, well, Paul, these are all American companies. Yep, these are all American companies. But it doesn't mean that it can be done in Pakistan. Yeah? I've been part of a local organization, which was Telenor Bank, that has a vision about empowering societies by banking the unbanked of the world. And I am not an employee of Telenor Bank. I've worked with them, and I love working with them because even if I can make a percentile impact on achieving this, I think I feel very good about myself. Yeah? So I love to work with companies that have got a massive transformational purpose. So if you want to attract talent, make sure that you're clear on that. And the last one is that we really have to start using technology to create a better employee experience. Okay? Somebody's going to talk today about using technology for the customer experience, but I think we can really engage talent using technology for a better employee experience. And whether that's to do with acquiring talent, whether it's to do with engagement, whether that's to do with getting ideas, with performance management, there's zillions of off-the-shelf tools out there. Start to use, start experimenting. Start asking a small team to use a specific tool that's out there. It costs you $20 a month per person. No investment whatsoever. Okay? I've taken the opportunity to use this whole thing, and actually I've got a second company called the Talent Games, in which we've gamified the recruitment experience for management trainees. And just over the last 6 months, we've assessed 30,000 students on 100 different elements. Can you imagine? And they all participate in an hour-long game in order for them to be assessed for companies like Nestlé, Novartis, Coca-Cola, etc., etc. And the response has been phenomenal from students. Okay? Whereas in the past, you had to listen to a show and tell in the university and do a paper and pen test. Now you're being immersed in a 1-hour game in which they're gonna assess you, and on that basis, you've got an opportunity to be employed. So there's a huge amount of opportunities out there to use technology to impact the employee experience. I'm going to end up on a small video from a German technologist, Mr. Cohen, and he really is able to articulate brilliantly, in my view, the impact that technology has, but also what our role as the human species is going to be into that. So I would like to end on that.
Once upon a time, business as usual was often good enough. No more. Where we are going, good enough is dead. In a world where everything is connected, where everything is equally excellent, where performance is reaching perfection, there's only one space left to innovate in: you. Right now, you are a central point in the raging tornado of change fueled by digitization, mobilization, augmentation, disintermediation, automation. Well, the list goes on. Science fiction is becoming science fact. Think about self-driving cars or computers that can learn and think. The way we work will never be the same. The skills we need will be dramatically different. Winning or losing are now happening faster than ever before. So what's your response? How will you discover new opportunities in one of the most transformational times in human history? Are you driving change, or are you being driven by it? Disruption has become the new normal. With change, it's always gradually, then suddenly, well, things really have stopped happening gradually. This change is exponential. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected is now wired and intelligent. Cars, cities, ports, farms, even our bodies will be wired with sensors and will talk to each other. These game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Quantum computing fuels big data. The Internet of Things fuels artificial intelligence and deep learning, which fuels robotics. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Human-only traits such as creativity, imagination, intuition, emotion, and ethics will be even more important in the future, because machines are very good at simulating, but not at being. Yes, robots and software will do some of our work, but this will allow us to focus on things that cannot be automated. To imagine change squared, you've got to start engaging more with what might be, not just with what is. Immerse yourself in the immediate future, 5 to 7 years out from today. We need to go beyond technology and data to reach human insights and wisdom. Technology represents the how of change, but humans represent the why. The future is about holistic business model. The opportunity is to be liquid, to learn just in time, not just in case, not single improvements, but complete transformations, not individual systems, but new ecosystems. Humanity is where true and lasting value is created. We will engage, relate, and buy things because of the experiences they provide, because of their transformative power. The future doesn't just happen, the future gets happened. The new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is in technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcending it. Let's live and lead from here.
So I think it's all about not being overwhelmed by it, but finding ways to transcend it. I think that's a beautiful statement. If you want to create, if you want to be part of the future of work, on the one hand it's very exciting, on the one hand it's very scary, and depending on probably your personality, one is more scary or one is more exciting. But the only way that I think you can add value is to embrace it. And I wish you good luck with that. And by simply being here, I think you're already doing that. Thank you very much.